Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 11th Derry Cooperative School Board meeting. If I could have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, first on the agenda this evening is the Parent-Guardian Agreement Attestation Form.
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me? All set? Thank you. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you here this evening and those of you who are watching from home. And I will speak to this, although I can't take credit for creating it. Thank our nursing team under the direction of Sue Linehan, our nurse team leader, who has been working extraordinarily hard this summer and throughout the year. Mr. Minkle, can you display this, please? Thank you. So this is the Parental Guardian Agreement Attestation Form, and it's for daily home health screening for school attendance. So this is something that our parent guardians will receive, and it goes in accordance with the screening measures for symptoms of COVID-19. And I won't read the whole agreement, but it is to be signed by the student's parent guardian before the first day of school, so it's prior to the first day of school, which, as we all know, is August 31st. And this is a one-time signature. However, frequent reminders will be sent regarding the health guidelines for school attendance. It has a website that you can go to from the CDC. And if you look at the bottom of page 1 that Mr. Minkle is showing now, it talks about and refers to the guidelines for student school attendance. And I think it's important enough to read. Any student showing symptoms of COVID-19 should not be at school. A wide range of symptoms have been reported, ranging from mild symptoms to severe illness. Symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. Students with any of these symptoms may have COVID-19, and it lists the symptoms as in a checklist. And if you go to the guidance from Dr. Chan, the state epidemiologist, and anywhere in the CDC, any of the literature of which is produced by the New Hampshire DHHS, it talks about it, speaks and refers to a checklist. So these are the checklists: fever or chills, fever greater than 100, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, and diarrhea. Any student who has had a close contact exposure within 6 feet for at least 15 minutes in the last 14 days with someone suspected to have or has been diagnosed with COVID-19 should not attend school. And number 3, any student who has traveled in the prior 14 days outside of New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island should not be at school. Remember, and I know that people keep cognizant of this all the time, these are subject to change. As we know, some of these criteria consistently change. It asks for a student name, school, contact number, parent, guardian, printed name, and parent, guardian signature, and a date. In reference to the frequent reminders, we suspect that we will be starting off with nearly daily reminders to parents that they signed this, and parents, guardians, and family members that you sign this, and you need to be well aware that this has been signed and this needs to be followed. And then perhaps we can tail off with those very frequent reminders to a little less frequent reminders. It's a very big responsibility to sign this attestation form, and we know and believe that our family members, our parents and guardians, will take this very seriously when they sign off on this. Our schools will be sending out the reminders, and we expect and have very, very high expectations that this will be followed. So I wanted to go over that and review that. I know we've added a lot to this, and this has also been run by our council. So thank you again to our nursing team and Sue Linehan for putting this together. Our parents, guardians can expect this very soon and take a look at it. Please review it. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to call our schools, and we'll be happy to, or the SAU, will be happy to answer any of those questions. So thank you, Mr. Minkle, for displaying that.
Thank you, Mary Ann. We do have a late addition to the agenda, so I will request a motion to add guidelines for COVID-19 related illnesses and return to school or work.
So moved.
Motion by Lynn, second by Brenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Majority has passed. The agenda item, I believe, Sue Linehan is speaking to this.
Yes. Okay, and Mr. Minkle, I know you'll display this as well. I want to thank Sue and the nursing team again for really working incredibly hard to put this document together. This is, again, a fluid document. Susan will speak to this. It really outlines a number of important procedures and protocols that we in the Derry Cooperative School District will follow, and I'll let Sue take it from there. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. So is this on? Everybody good? First, a comment on the attestation form. I want to point out that we're taking the more conservative stance on temperature of 100, and that was recommended by Dr. Chan. A lot of places you'll see 100.4. We've always used 100 in this district as kind of our guideline for sending home since H1N1 years ago, and that was in one of his webinars with us is 100, so it's just the most protective stance. We feel something's going on with a kid if temperature is greater than 100. So the nurses came up with these guidelines because I know everybody's asking about it and worried about it, about COVID-related illnesses and return to work or school. So I'm not going to go through the entire document, but you know, it starts out by saying students need to remain home or staff needs to remain home if symptoms are present. The symptoms requiring an absence are the same thing that we just went over at the attestation form. And then there's absences that are related to medical provider treatment for non-COVID related illnesses, like strep throat, things like that. And those would follow the same guidelines they always have. The state has documents on if you have strep throat, you have to stay home 24 hours after antibiotics starts and things like that. So as you go through this document, there's what happens if they become sick while at school or work. This document, I would imagine, will be available, Mary Ann, for everybody to see. And basically it is following all the protocols of DHHS and CDC, and there's links within the document. But a staff or a student will be isolated, and we all have an isolation area in our schools if that child is exhibiting symptoms. Now, I will reiterate that I've said every week that the symptoms are mild and broad and non-specific for COVID. And so, you know, we may be sending home a child who just has, says his legs are sore and he's got a little stuffy nose, and we're not sure, and so he goes home. And this kind of goes through what their options are. Their options are, if they're sent home with something that could be COVID-like symptoms, they either need to go to the doctor and get diagnosed with some other treatable illness with a note of something. He was jumping on a trampoline yesterday. I think it's muscle ache. You know, he's fine to return to school, or he needs a COVID test. If they choose not to go to the doctor and said he's fine, then they have to quarantine for 10 days if they have COVID-like symptoms. So if they're diagnosed at school, they will, not diagnosed, if they have symptoms at school, they're sent home with those standards. They're sent home with written and emailed communication to the parents about what needs to happen, those things I just described. And this talks about school-based employees. Again, school-based employees are expected to do the same thing. If they have symptoms that could be consistent, is to see their healthcare professional. If they're at school, they can access the school nurse. And then there's a whole section on when to return after illness. And basically, those are the state guidelines of at least 24 hours, 10 days if they've been diagnosed with COVID or COVID-like illness that did not have a negative COVID test, 10 days, and at least 24 hours have passed with resolution of fever and symptoms have improved. Moves on to if you get a positive test, if you have a contact with somebody with COVID, if you're living with a person who is positive for COVID, what you need to do, and what the Derry Cooperative School District is doing every day to monitor these things, and that includes closely monitoring attendance of students via Power School, and we'll notice an increase in absences. Each school enters daily, each school nurse enters daily the number into the state reporting system, and that's where they pick up potential clusters that we might not see earlier because they've got their finger on that button for sure. In general, if it's a 10% increase or greater, and we haven't heard from them, we will contact DHHS. And if somebody in the building, if somebody has been notified, has been tested positive within the educational setting, the first and foremost thing, and the most important thing, is that DHHS is part of the plan immediately, and they will help us with the public health investigation, contact tracing, and consultations on the next step. Obviously, administration will know right from the get-go in the superintendent's office, as well as the director of facilities. The decisions, it's a big question about decisions on what students and staff will be sent home, and that's all it's on a case-by-case basis, and on the contact tracing and in recommendation from the superintendent and the Department of Public Health. We plan to have full disclosure, and the last section talks about notification of the school itself if there was a positive case, and we fully plan. And sometimes DHH gives us the option. And in the past, when things have happened, they said, you don't have to send home a letter, but if you choose to, we plan to maintaining HIPAA and FERPA confidentiality laws. If there's a positive case, that all those that need to know, which would be the school, the school building, I would imagine. And it doesn't mean that the school needs to be closed or that even the class needs to be closed necessarily. It depends on what the investigation shows. So this is a pretty, 4-page document on all those things with links, and it will be available for people to loot. And it does need to be an active document, because 3 weeks ago it was 72 hours of fever-free and 14 days, and now it's 10 days and 24 hours. And so, unfortunately, I was saying to Mary Ann that, you put the links in, and you would hope that clicking on that same link would just automatically update, and we've discovered it doesn't. It's a different link, so we'll have to really stay on top of those changes and change these documents as they go. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, for all your work.
Okay, update on the roadmap.
Okay. Good evening again. I just wanted to quickly review the changes to the roadmap to reopening schools document, initially dated July 28th, updated, can you hear me? Okay, it's better. Updated, just feels like it's in my face. Updated August 11th. As parents hopefully received the letter I sent out on Friday, the updated documents are also on our website, just so you know. So a lot of the updated documents were included in a letter sent out Friday. I just want to review that they have also been updated in our roadmap to reopening schools. Much like Sue said, when updates occur, they don't automatically update in our plan. We need to go back and do that. So if you notice anything's missing, just point that out. We try to keep up with the updates in our plan as well. It's a fluid document, as we all know. We refer to the word fluidity all the time because our plan is fluid, and certainly we do make changes as we did on Friday. So the face covering mask requirements is referred to on page 14 and again on page 43 as in Appendix A. So those have been some changes made, as you knew, in the letter and the voiceover on Friday. I'll continue to speak in the mic, so I apologize. The phase-in plan on page 26 is also referred to in Appendix E, and that was as a result of the change in calendar. And so that was also attached on Friday. And the alternative remote learning plan is referred to on page 34 and referred to in more depth along with all the other documents on the website. So those are the most poignant changes in the newest version and the newest updated version in our roadmap to reopening schools. As we continue to update the plan, it will be updated in this fluid document, and one of us will continue to let you know about updates at board meetings. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up we have a presentation by Ms. Simard for classroom desk distancing.
Okay, thank you. I did make a few copies that are on the desk if anybody wants it. Otherwise, it will be up on the screen. I think Mr. Minkle's working on that. But we had, each school tried rearranging all of their desks so that they could have our distancing criteria where the desks were going to be based on grade level. And our methodology was measuring center to center from one desk to the other. And it's the same methodology that other school districts are using. The least amount of space at any one of our elementary schools is 4 feet, and that's really being really conservative because that's just talking about whether we max out the class with school board class size recommendation goals. But we know with the number of students that are going to be doing the remote learning plan that these distances are going to change. They will get greater because there's going to be less students. And for example, if you were to look at Barca, I was there today measuring, the desks actually were 5 feet apart, and that was in one of the lower grades. And we know that at this point, with the number of students that have responded, the maximum, any one of the grades maximum enrollment right now over there is between 16 and 17 students. So even at 4.5 feet, we know that that grade level is going to lose multiple desks in that classroom. I know that some people have been concerned about the 4.5 feet because of the distance between the physical part of the desk, but there are opportunities in every classroom to remove bookshelves or other items that are in the room to expand if a teacher feels more comfortable having more distance and they have that ability to do that in their room. I know that every principal is willing to work with staff on that to make more room in each classroom. So again, each class ranges from, there are only 3 classrooms at East Derry that are 4 feet. Otherwise, all of the other schools are at a minimum 4.5 to 5 feet, and 2 of the classes at Derry Village are up to 6 feet of distance. Again, the numbers that we're showing are just putting them at capacity for school board goals. That doesn't mean that that's how many students are actually going to be attendance in that classroom. And middle school is a little bit different because they have science tables, they have their core classes, and each one of those, again, the least amount of space is going to be 4.5 feet. So, does anybody have any questions on that?
Why did we go center to center, just kind of, and not like edge of, I know it's been asked, I was just wondering.
It's okay. Like I said, we've used the same methodology as other districts, and what we were thinking is when you are sitting forward, since our procedure is going to be that all students are facing in the same direction, you're really measuring the distance from the person and where they're sitting to the next person in the center of their desk. So not edge of desk to edge of desk, but you would still, from the center of your desk where the child's going to be sitting and facing, to the next child where they're going to be sitting. So that's how we did the methodology. But some of the grade levels that I looked at today, based on enrollment, they're definitely going to be further than 4.5 feet. They're going to be at 5.5 feet, depending on enrollment.
Under East Derry, what is under kindergarten, it says short 22 desks. Does that mean we don't have them yet?
No, we just have to put them in there. Those were just notes for us to do that.
One additional question, Jane. I know that it was already, I think, spoken about in one of the previous meetings, but this is 0 flexible seating options. It's literally chairs in the middle of the desks, everybody looking forward in a singular direction, yeah?
Yes, the classrooms are being laid out so that every student is facing the same direction, and the distancing, for example, if a student is 4.5 feet to the left, it's the same distance behind them. So, but yes, they'll be all on the same desk. Normally in any one of the elementary levels or even the middle school, they used to cluster student desks together. So everyone is now in a row.
Any further questions? No? Thank you, Jane. Okay, we have a policy update. Austin, I believe you have that.
Yep. EPS code, IHBB, enrichment programming. Many, in doing some research, many districts don't even have this policy. Those that do have it pretty concise. We were a bit wordy. According to the policy committee, they agreed, and keeping it, it was, why am I drawing a blank? It was gifted and talented. Thank you. It was the look. It was gifted and talented. And we have, and it sort of referred to the PACE program, but enrichment programming in general, and we used some of the new wording from the state when they changed it. The school board recognizes the need for enrichment programs designed to meet the needs of all learners and encourages students to pursue and demonstrate advanced coursework. So this is here for a first reading.
Any comments from the board? All right. Look forward for that to come back at the next meeting. All right, personnel.
Okay, we have one retirement. Linda Rosinski, grade 2 teacher at Derry Village Elementary School. Linda's been with us 32 years of service to Derry, and certainly on a personal note, she will be very missed, and appreciate Linda's long tenure in Derry and all the commitment she had given to students and families. So we appreciate her incredible service and incredible commitment and the love she showed for children.
I think Mrs. Rosinski has had a few of my children. Linda will be sorely missed. She's had, I think, actually all 3 of my children, maybe just 2 of them, but absolutely amazing teacher to work with. She just bonds with every student. And I'm out of words. She's amazing. She's going to be a big loss. So good luck, and thank you very much for your service.
You have to make a motion? Motion to accept Linda's retirement.
Second, and I'll also echo what you said. I actually met her when she was at East Derry a long time ago, and I'm going to miss reading to her class and hearing all those great little stories. And so I'll second it with a lot of thanks and best wishes on retirement. Thanks for everything that's been done for our kiddos over all these years.
Okay. In favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Good luck, Mrs. Rosinsky. All right, superintendent update.
Okay. This will be a brief update tonight, because we've been busy doing a lot of work, as you know, and happily doing that work. So as of today, we still have hiring going on in the midst of continuing to plan for the return to school. A complete list of new staff will be available at the next meeting. In fact, I have an interview for our new staff member on Thursday. So an additional new staff member is being interviewed this Thursday. That's part of the process. Just a reminder to all families, the return to school decision form is due on Thursday, August 13th at 12 p.m. If the form is not completed, then each school will just assume that our students are coming back on site. So that's really an important aspect. I know that principals and leadership teams have been sending out daily reminders. I truly appreciate all the work you put into those daily reminders. It's really helped in terms of getting feedback and getting more decisions in by the day and sometimes by the hour. I noticed a real upswing after those reminders went out yesterday, a real upswing on the number of responses. So thank you to our leadership team, and thank you to our families for responding. Please remember to call your child's school tomorrow, or call the SAU, and particularly your child's school, because sometimes they can answer your question in a much more succinct and personal level with any questions, so that you can make the most informed decision possible for your particular child or children. And again, August 13th at noon. As of this afternoon at 2:45, we had a total collection of 2,738 responses from 1,838 families. Let me give you the percentages as of then. I know they've changed since then. This is the percentages as of 2:45 this afternoon. Children returning to school under Plan A, 74.9%. Children using the alternative remote learning plan option, 22.4%. This is a comprehensive pre-K through 8 number. And children not returning to school and not participating in the remote learning program, finding alternative options, is at 2.7%. In terms of transportation, morning bus only, 2.4%, afternoon bus only, 5.9%, morning and afternoon bus, 35.9%, and no bus transportation at all, 55.8%. I know I had a couple of parent inquiries as to what I update. Yes, those are the updates as of now, and as I said, I know they've changed. So again, I encourage parents, if you're listening, and family members, if you're listening, to fill out that decision form unless you have remaining questions, which we're always available to answer. Okay? So thank you to those who have filled that out. And I know for some of you it's a very difficult decision, so I hope we've been helpful at the school level and at the SAU level. And again, thanks to our leadership team. More accolades go out to our school nurse team and our nurse team leader, Sue Linehan. They have worked incredibly hard on the documents that you saw tonight, on the face covering mask requirements. I was on the phone with them on Friday, and we thought we had the solid document, and then they had the webinar from Dr. Benjamin Chan, our state epidemiologist, and it flipped at the last minute after that 12 o'clock call. They've been incredible partners in collaboration, and I do think we came out with a real solid document in a very collaborative manner, and I really speak to the collaboration part, because I truly believe we worked as a team and came out with a very, very good, solid document based on certainly part of Dr. Peterson's recommendations, and then Dr. Chan's recommendations, and our own school nurse team recommendations. And together, I believe we worked in a very collaborative team environment. So I'd like to really give them exceptionally strong accolades and my thanks. And you know how grateful I am for people's work. And, I truly commend their continuity and their dedication throughout the summer. It's not just been August, it's really been since, in our entire remote learning period and beyond, so the entire summer. So credits go out to all of you, and our deepest appreciation on behalf of the entire leadership team, and I know on behalf of the entire school board. So thank you. Our task forces continue to meet. I met with our community-based task force yesterday, and our at-large task force, our district-wide task force. So in preparing for our return to school in both options, our alternative remote learning plan option and our face-to-face option, meetings are being held, communication is ongoing, communication is fluid. I pride ourselves on being able to listen and respond. I think that's part of our strength in Derry, and it's a really great strength that we have in Derry as a team. We will continue to work hard as we move forward and students begin to return in either that face-to-face or remote option on August 31st. I wish everyone the best as they enjoy the remainder of the summer, and as always, please stay safe and healthy. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the extended school year update. Jane Boyle.
Hi, thank you. Can everyone hear me? So this year was a little bit different for extended school year because this was the first time in all the years I've been here that we did some remote and we did some face-to-face in school. So we had a total of around 118 students participating this year. And I'd like to thank all of our teachers that worked this summer. They did a fabulous job working with our students in the remote setting and over at Barker Elementary School where we were housed. Just to give you, when it comes to safety precautions and cleaning, we followed all the protocols. We had all the PPE equipment there. The janitorial staff over at Barker was wonderful, cleaning the classrooms right after students left. I want to do a special thanks to Dan and Dave, the principal and assistant principal there. As always, they were very supportive of all of our students that came in and out. And thank you to our parents that followed all the protocols. We had to, each parent had to sign a screening attesting that their student was healthy that day coming in. And if a student took a bus, the parent had to make sure that screening form was filled out before they got on the bus. So that worked out seamlessly. When they got to the school, people were staggered coming in and out. They used different doors. So on the whole, we had a very healthy summer, 5 weeks. Everyone was safe and everybody was healthy. The parents, the feedback I have gotten from parents, especially some of the students that had the opportunity to do face-to-face, really saw a difference in their child at home. They struggled a little bit in the springtime with some behavioral situations, but boy, once they got back into school, it was like those behaviors went away. So it really, we've gotten some really nice feedback. Right now, we're still doing evaluations for the summer. That is ongoing. The staff that's doing testing right now has been using the plexiglass. The parents have come to Barker, has come to the door for an appointment, has dropped their child off to the evaluator, and that has worked out smoothly also. I know all of our leadership team, they all fight every year to get an extended school year at their school, and they just love having children around, and we appreciate their support always when it comes to our students, all of our students, and Special thanks to Laura Powers and Gerald White, who's our 2 assistant directors. Gerald just came on board on July 1st, and he got right into extended school year and didn't miss a beat. So they did a lot of hard work, and they continue to do it. So I just want to thank everyone, and I want to thank our parents for being so supportive of our children this summer. Just a special little, not extended school year, but from our July 28th meeting, I just want to thank the parents that have called up. They've had questions. They've called either our office. I've talked to a lot of parents. The leadership team has talked to a lot of parents, and I think we've been able to answer a lot of questions when it's come to how students and their IEPs are going to work. So I would just say, continue to call the buildings. We'll work with you. We'll probably be having some IEP meetings to look at their IEPs and what's appropriate for them either in the alternative remote that they might be in, or if they're doing face-to-face. So I just want to thank everyone and it comes from the top and it goes all the way down to all the parents and the teachers and the staff and the community that everything went very smoothly this summer. So it was a nice dry run to start the school year, so.
I'd just like to say thanks to Jane and Kathy Alasso and Sue Hebert for the incredible amount of work they do to coordinate all of this. So thank you.
I want to echo that. Jane, thank you for your hard work is an understatement. Nonstop work. You can always tell when you're coming down the hall. That's for sure. Sometimes it mixes us up, but I think you're faster than me. But thank you. Yeah, it's nonstop work, and I know all of us appreciate it, and certainly certainly we appreciate all of the administrators as well, and all of our support staff. Because without that, teamwork, we wouldn't be where we are. So thank you.
Jane, can you just clarify that the testing you're talking about is not related to COVID-19 and it's related to students and their needs?
Yeah, the
Thank you.
testing, the evaluations that are going on now are any students that needed to be evaluated for some type of testing, if it was an initial referral or some additional testing. When COVID-19 started in March, we kind of was at a halt on how we get that going. We waived some testing, but we were able to get some guidelines to get the plexiglass and start doing evaluations that can be valid and get those things done. So for the school year, we'll have all the parameters in place to keep doing our testing. I think we're going to have to catch up on some, to be honest with you, because we did waive some testing that needed to be done. So there will be a lot of evaluations, and with that emergency order that came out, we do have a leeway on, I think it's till November 15th now, but IEP teams are going to have to meet with parents to talk about how remote learning went and what their needs are now. So that will be a work in progress. It started, but it will continue.
Any other discussion? Okay. Thanks, Jane. Excellent work. All right, business administrator update.
Okay, to follow along with what Jane is saying, to talk about the PPE and the supplies that we have on order and supplies that we currently have, we are waiting for our desk shields for staff that we'll be getting in, and the principals will be distributing as necessary to those who'll need them, either for testing or direct instruction or a teacher's desk. So those should be coming in around the 21st. We've also ordered cloth masks for students and staff, as well as clear plastic shields and the shields that have a clear plastic with a bottom covering. And in that case, if you're wearing that type of a face shield, the staff member would not need to wear a mask like this. They would, because they have the material underneath, they would only have to wear that one. If they're going to wear a shields that's clear, that does not have the bottom, they would have to wear a regular mask and the shield. And we also have goggles in stock, we have gloves in stock, we have sanitizer, all of the, you'll see them throughout this school. We put in over 300 sanitizing units throughout the district, in classrooms, in hallways. So we have plenty of stock of sanitizer and cleaner. We'll have cleaning products available to staff members in their class if they want to use them. We're also going to be getting a donation from the state for washable masks for our students. Governor Sununu had worked to secure PPE and face masks, and they had about 100,000 of them. And the way that they're distributing them is using our free and reduced lunch numbers and then multiplying that by 2.5. So the Derry School District will receive 1,655 washable face coverings for our students, for those students who may not be able to bring one from home. So those will just be distributed throughout the school, and they'll give them out at their discretion for our students. But so that's a great asset for us. We also just want to update you on, Marianne mentioned staffing. We have quite a few custodial positions available, full and part-time, and we also have positions in our cafeteria that are, there's one full-time and then there's part-time positions. And I know all of our other positions are listed on our district website, and I believe we've shared them on Facebook, and there's an ad in one of the newspapers. So, but if people want to apply for those positions, they can either do it through our website or stop in our office for an application. We still have our summer cleaning is going on, and they're starting to get all the desks back. The floors are all being polished. The classrooms will have tape on the floor where the desks are going to be once teachers and administrators decide on their room layout. Then we'll mark the floors so that the desks, we know where they're going to go back for their measurement. And we also have floor markings that are going to be coming in on the 13th. So 2 more days, they're going to be circle stickers that will go in the hallways to have distancing, and they will be throughout the school, and the signage that's going to go in the bathrooms, reminding about the hand washing. There'll be signage throughout the school for safe distancing and reminding students to wash their hands, use hand sanitizer. So there'll be a lot of signage as reminders throughout the school. And our secure lobby project is still going on. That is a project from that we received finances from the state about 2 years ago, and we started the project as soon as school let out this year. We've had a few delays due to COVID-related issues with securing the glass and that type of thing, but they are starting to put that in now. So those will be ready for when students return to school. And that's about it. Since we're thanking people, I want to make sure we thank our maintenance and foods, our custodial department, who have been working in the schools every day, getting them ready for the opening of school. So they're doing an outstanding job. I want to make sure I thank them too.
Okay. Any questions for Jane? All right. Thank you, Jane. Next, we have some representatives from the Derry Education Association. Welcome and come on up.
Glad you took the rolling table out tonight. Try not to hit it tonight. Hi again, Meg Morse-Berry, 12 Kendall Pond Road, Derry.
Dave and Kelly and I are here because we need to talk to you. We need to let you know that since you made the decision on July 28th to return school fully, the landscape of COVID has definitely changed dramatically. Last week you heard from Dr. Peterson. He reported the results of the Georgia camp study. And that study, the attack rate, which is what it's called, the infection rate, was 76% for all children 6 through 17. Overall, the infection rate for all those attending the camp were 46%. It's really easy to dismiss the Georgia study because Georgia's a long way away, but it only takes one person. All of these people were tested prior to attending camp. Somebody came and it might have been asymptomatic, and that's what started the downhill slide. In the last 2 weeks of July, there was a 90% increase in the number of COVID-19 cases among children in the United States, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Children's Hospital Association. We're here tonight to share with you how the teachers that work in Derry feel right now about returning to school. Our questions have not been answered. The safety of all of our educational community is in jeopardy. I gave Tammy a bunch of letters, and you may have received them all by email, but we printed some of them off. I'm sure you'll be getting more. This is what the educators in Derry is saying. Plan A is woefully inadequate and contains too many gaps to be safe and effective for in-person instruction for Derry's precious staff and students. The underlying flaw of Plan A is that we will attend school until enough people get sick. Let that sink in for a moment, until enough people get sick. We are clinging to a cherished memory of school that cannot exist while COVID-19 is among us. No one should go into a school where it's unsafe to touch each other. Proximity is unavoidable in a public school. COVID-19 has made it unsafe to perform a lockdown drill, a fire drill, or to tie a child's shoes. It's unsafe for two friends to hug each other after a summer apart. Students will not see the faces of their teachers or classmates. Students will be without any human contact or see a friendly smile for 6.5 hours. Another teacher writes, I've been on a roller coaster of emotion each day and night. I sincerely worry about the emotional toll this has taken on me and my colleagues. And yet another teacher says, what about the students who need emotional or behavioral support? I can't come to their aid or diffuse the situation from 6 feet away. Some of you may think that is rare, but the opposite is true. It's actually rare to have a class without 2 or 3 or even more children who need extra nurturing. And yet another, I don't feel confident that we have the answers to the important questions or resources that we need in order to implement this plan successfully and safely. I fear that we'll be put in a situation where I have to make a decision that puts my students, my colleagues, and myself at risk. For example, teachers or admin crossing cohorts or combining cohorts to cover classes due to a shortage of substitutes, or having students sit less than 6 feet apart, unmasked during lunch and snack times because there isn't enough space. These things, along with many other potential unsafe situations we'll encounter on a daily basis, give me concern that we are not in a place where it's safe to return to school under Plan A. You next? Okay.
Thank you, Dave Levesque, First Vice President. I did want to ask a few questions on here that deals with the desks. Jane had mentioned that we were 4.5, 5 feet away on some classes. Although these are improved over the 3 that we had originally heard, we even heard the pediatrician last week state that we needed 6 feet for lunches, eating, snack time, and under this plan, that still doesn't meet that. So that's still an area of concern that we have. I don't understand why we're measuring from this point if I'm sitting here. It doesn't, I know other districts might measure that way, but that's not to say they are correct. But if this is the center of the desk, there's still 12 inches between me and the desk. So I can't understand why that's being used. If a teacher needs to address a student or work with a student, are you suggesting we walk down the aisle to help that student? Because now we're definitely closer than 6 feet. We don't have 6 feet of space to walk down an aisle. Now I'm within 3 feet distance or even a foot or less if I'm working with somebody. So again, I don't understand why this is the reference point we use. I might buy that you could use the center of the chair, but the center of the desk doesn't make sense to me. So, and again, if a teacher has to go down the aisle to work with somebody, they're definitely closer than 3 feet, let alone 6 feet. And again, I already brought up lunches. Again, we heard the pediatrician say 6 feet in order to take your mask off. So as we continue with some of the letters that we're hearing or some of the things that we're getting from our members, I believe we fielded over 600 questions as an association. We had 600 questions, more than. And so I don't even know where to begin on answering them. I know we submitted a bunch to the district. I know the teachers who asked the questions of us also asked the district. We're not getting answers. And we talk about communication, something's missing. A teacher here says, I find myself saying something I never thought I would say. I feel fortunate that my child is in the Manchester School District. After watching their school board meeting last night, it was a breath of fresh air to see how they approach re-entry. Their focus was constantly on the safety of school, both students and staff. They spent a large amount of time discussing student and staff safety, but also that their teachers and staff, which I feel Derry has not addressed. They have also agreed not to take any irrational decisions and to make sure that their plan is completely in place and realistic before bringing students into the building. And they voted grades 2 to 12 to be remote with a hybrid option for K1. Another person here says, I feel the need to speak up now because this is a life and death situation. My children have grown up with their grandmother. My family is responsible for her care. She will die if I bring this home. My husband has a compromised immune system. My children need their father. For the first time in 20 years, I'm advocating for me and my family. Each member of the Derry teaching staff has their own situation and story similar to mine. It will not be a healthy school environment if we are working in fear. It will not be good for the social and emotional well-being of our students if we have to tell a staff member has passed away or a classmate is sick. I have experienced both a colleague and a student in my career. The effect it has on the school community is devastating. A school is not a business, it's a family and a tight-knit community. We have the ability to be proactive. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Kelly Carey, classroom teacher, second vice president. Ooh, this is wobbly. So I'm just going to continue with more thoughts from the teachers that reached out to us and the educators. The educators of Derry submitted a letter endorsed by 191 of your staff on July 28th, and yet you voted right after that night without reading the letter. Why? We have always prided ourselves on being a school district that listens, values transparency, and have been reassured how much our voice matters in this decision that directly affects the well-being of our children and employees. However, I feel devalued that time was not taken to genuinely consider our professional opinion. These are worrisome times, and our voices should not have fallen on deaf ears. I believe our students, families, staff, and their families deserve better than what was voted upon. As school board members, have you visited every school and witnessed what these classes will look like? What the students of Derry will see, where their desks are, how the bus seams? Have you sat in the desks that are less than 6 feet apart with your mask on, facing forward, right up against your desk, for 6 hours without leaving your desk unless permission has been granted? Again, Our questions have not been answered. The safety of all of the educational community is in jeopardy. We implore, demand that you do the right thing by being brave and courageous and reversing your decision. Re-entering school at this time is not the safe thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, all three of you, for coming and discussing that with us. Any discussion?
I just want to point out something. So Mary Ann gave us our numbers of the students that want to return to school. And it was 74%, correct? Returning 74 point something want to return to
It was
school.
74.9.
22% want to do remote, and 2.7 not returning at all. So to me, even though we opted for Plan A, there was still that option for these families to choose to stay home and go remote. But to me, the families, the district, families in our district are speaking. For 74% to want to return to school those are telltale signs to me that they feel safe enough and secure with masks in place or all of the precautions in place that we are taking and cleaning and what have you, that they want to return. So I just wanted to I appreciate and definitely value all of our teachers. I really, really do. And I am not disregarding this virus in any way, shape, or form, but I think our families have spoken in the sense that, again, 74% want to return. So there was that option there, if they wanted to go remote.
Chair, if I may, the opener from the president of the union speaks about other locations, geographic locations, Georgia. This is not some abstract number that we just have ignored. We've looked at our region, and I think the region, and Derry in particular, speaks for itself about exposure. Her very words were across the United States, not what's happening in New Hampshire, not what's happening in New England, not what's happening in the Northeast, which is significant to what the decision is that this board looked at. Addressing the last individual that just spoke to us, which is to say that we've ignored those letters, I addressed the very point about those letters on July 28th, which was that we were not ignoring anything. And and I think this goes to Mrs. Legou's comments, as she has advocated for the teachers union as well, or for the teachers, which is that she knows and we know that when you are on this board, you have opportunity to have more insight as to the functionings of the administration and what they're seeing than people who are laymen and are out there wandering around in the town running a Facebook page. I think that it's significant to understand that we understood those points and you were not ignored, but those points were already seen. The separation, the standards that we follow are prescriptive. They are prescriptive in the event that someone has exposure to this virus. It's not a lottery, it's not a gamble. You look at the numbers of exposure in Derry, 17, pretty low. If we were in New Zealand, who has not had a case in 3 months, they can open up their schools without a problem. Are they to be concerned about what's going on in the rest of the world as to whether or not they ignore the parents that want to send their kids to school, the majority of them? That is not our place, and it is not our place here to come up with scare tactics and come up with some kind of reconfiguration of numbers. That's my position on it. I suspect that the board, other members, may have their own variations, but I really resent the fact that we're being told we've ignored you, that we haven't heard you, that when you're giving us different numbers, they're numbers significant to the United States, 50 states, not New Hampshire. I rest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I think I was pretty upfront about where I stood on this issue when we spoke at the public forum. Just to follow up with a couple additional things that I think are important to take note. Yes, we had 74% of parents say they would like to have their kids back in school. I'll tell you, it's not entirely because they feel the schools are safe. It's because they can't handle their kids at home. right? And that plays a significant role into this, and they pawn their kids off on the teachers because they think it's a daycare. So they're done having them at home, and they want to push them back to school. It's not the entire 74%, but I'll tell you that there's a significant chunk that's that. I think you brought up New Zealand, Lynn. They wear masks, all of them. There's no ignorance to science. They follow the rules. They've eliminated the cases, which we've seen a lot of that same information here that says that, like, if we follow the rules and wear the masks, we can eliminate this in a 3-week time frame. But we don't, because we have ignorant people that fight for their own personal liberties. Do you think that the kids of these parents who refuse to wear masks have been trained to wear a mask? They're going to come to school after not wearing a mask throughout the entirety of the last 4 months, and we're saying, wear a mask all day, please. I understand that we need to have our kids in school, totally get it. Just playing devil's advocate here, like, these are the things that are real life, and we can't just say that everything's happy, hunky-dory all the time, that everything's going to be kosher. These are the things that our teachers are thinking about because they're seeing these kids in the classroom all the time. The same kids that have behavioral issues, the same kids that are trouble. Those are the kids that don't have that proper model at home of proper behavior. So I understand, like, let's put the kids in school. I want my kids educated. I get it. But it's a challenge for me.
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else?
So I just want to stress that I do listen to every single person that reaches out to me individually, and I write back. And if I didn't, it was because I missed an email or missed a text or missed a comment. But in this case, the reason why I supported us returning to school is because I looked at all the needs in the community and determined what was best for the majority of those people. So no situation is going to be perfect, but life rarely is. And every profession has its risks. Those risks change depending on circumstances, but they're risks that everyone has to take on. But what I look at is a community that has 25% free and reduced lunch. A lot of these parents work part-time jobs, work full-time jobs, are single parents. They don't have someone at home if their kid isn't in school, and they want their kid in school. They want them safe, and they want them learning. No, sitting in school looking forward in a mask is not ideal, but it is certainly better than being at home at a TV with a grandma or a babysitter that may not be healthy and may not be watching them. It's also better than a parent that is working full-time, 2 parents working full-time and unable to watch those kids and help them learn. So the option we gave was choice. If you need or want your child to be in school, they can be in school. If you feel your child will be better off remote and have the ability to do that, you also have that option. It's not perfect. It's not disrespecting teachers. It's simply saying, you were hired to do a job, and this is a case where the job is really hard, and you have to do the best you can, and we will do our best to support you, but sometimes it's just going to be hard. I've listened to every one of you. I respect every one of you. But now it's the time to look at the decision the board did make and understand that we thought about it hard, but whatever decision we make, it's your responsibility then to follow it out because you signed to do a job, and these kids need you.
Anybody else? All right. I just want to I totally understand the anxiety that teachers have. You will most likely be the last re-entrants in the workforce. Not your decision by any means. You came together in March and April and May and did an amazing job at remote. But we all know that remote isn't the answer for most kids. Sure, maybe high schoolers, they're a little more mature. They can handle that type of program. They're getting close to college years where some kids will take optional credits online anyway. Maybe even some advanced 8th graders can handle that. But we know that our other children can't do that. They have to be in school. The social, emotional, the welfare of the students, the safety of the students being in school, the malnutrition concerns being left at home are right now in our community with the low virus rate we have are way more higher concerns than the coronavirus. And that may change. In 2 months' time, that may be a different story, and this district will pivot. right now, the best thing we can do for our kids is get them back into the schools. And yes, the safety is a concern. Let's work on answering the questions you still have. This administration is up till early hours of the morning, coming up with new plans, answering questions. And sometimes it takes them a little longer to prepare these plans. I know this is an information-rich society, and we want answers now, but sometimes we have to plan things a little better. We have to use data. We have to use logic. We can't just be driven on emotion. So we'll get there. It's going to be different environment, but as we've heard from our kind of a soft opening and extended school year, the parents thought it was a turnaround for their children. The anxiety we're seeing in our children nowadays is by far the worst we've ever seen, and that's due to remote. We can't have them going back to school. The losses in education they've suffered, the extended summer slide that has occurred, we can't continue that through the fall. This will be a lost generation, and I won't stand for that.
Derek, may I address the questions that kind of the misinformation again, I believe, that goes out?
Yes, please.
I'd like to address it on behalf of the administrative team. Just as the misinformation went out, the desks were 3 feet apart. So I don't know the number of questions. I can't remark whether there were 600 or 550. What I can remark on is that they were identified by category by our leadership team. They're identified by category, and then a number of them were answered in Plan A, and Plan B, and Plan C in our document, Roadmap to Reopening. Subsequent to that, we held a webinar for all teachers and all staff, actually all staff. So many of them that weren't addressed in the Roadmap to Reopening plan were then addressed in the webinar. We had more questions after that. And mind you, going back to the questions that were submitted, there were many that were duplicates. So out of the supposed 600, and again, I don't have the number, many of them were duplicates, triplicates, or thereafter. So we had that first webinar, the document, as I addressed today, in the second webinar, which was then divided into elementary and middle school. The document from the first webinar, unfortunately, it didn't, the recording didn't take, today's did. The recording didn't take, so we then had to create a document based on the first webinar. So a lot of those questions will go into that document that should, as I said today in our webinar, goes out on Thursday, by Thursday. So I don't want the public in any way, shape, or form, whether it's on a social media site or it's tonight at this meeting, to think those questions went unaddressed. I think that's an unfair accusation, and I need to speak to that, and I need to really straighten that out. In the webinar today, I was very poignant in saying if anyone has any questions, they can address their administration or to call us. I can speak from my own being. I am very available to answer questions at any time. I give out my cell phone number. People are aware of that. If they choose not to use it, that is their choice. And my administrative team is also very available. So I think that's an important aspect to address because it's the truth.
Any further board comment?
I have been to every school and seen desks. I've walked with assistant principals to see how they decided to set them up in different rooms, in different spaces. I've sat in desks and then had the custodians come back and clean after me, which made me feel bad, but I did it because I wanted to see what it was like. So I have done it. Is it what we left in January? Absolutely not. But like Michelle said, we have 74% of our parents that want their children back in school. They need to be back in school. Their parents are trying to go to work. And we're not a daycare, and I don't mean to imply that we are. But we also need to educate children. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But once we get there, it'll be easier to walk in the building each day and say, we're here to educate kids, we're here to do the best we can. When we have to pivot, we'll pivot. We did it in March. You all did a great job of that. And we'll work together with the state. We're not making all the decisions. We're depending on DHHS and Dr. Chan and our medical experts in our district who have done an amazing job giving us information that helped us to make a decision. There was something else I was going to say. And the task force I was on, you had representatives on, the DEA did. And I believe each school also had people on their task force. So you did have a say. And if questions weren't answered then, they've been submitted and they'll be answered.
Any further board discussion? So I think we have some public guests. I'd like to see if anyone in the public would like to come up and speak. Give you a second to ponder it over here. We won't bite, I promise. So just remind you of the protocol. So you have 3 minutes. We do have someone on the whiteboard this evening, so please watch for the yellow. Please give your name and address for the record, and the total time period for the public comment will be 30 minutes unless it is extended by the board. Please go ahead.
Gus Koza, 21 Fairway Drive, Derry, New Hampshire. I've been involved in this district for 10 years, and I've taught in the school system. I've worked in the CAF, I've done traffic in the cold. A lot of teachers are my friends. A lot of board members are my friends. Why do I do this? Why sometimes do I volunteer a lot? I don't have a child in your district anymore. She's at Pinkerton now. But this is my way of giving back to this district. I understand some of the things the teachers are complaining about or talking about. And basically, if you listen to Dr. Chan, okay, he's the expert. If he really felt that it was not safe for these kids to go back to school, you don't think with his reputation he would have come out and said it? It wasn't a political thing, okay? We're not going to please everybody, not the school board, not the administration, not the teachers union. But what about the parents? They do have a say in this, okay? If exactly what people said, 74% want their kids to go back. It's not just because they have a job. They see their kids all summer, not having anything to do, not socializing. It's not just school for socializing, it's for education. And if you want to get back to special education, Jane Bowen knows how I feel. I've worked with her on some of the committees. Derry has a pretty good system, okay? But it still needs a lot of correction, special ed. Remote learning is not the answer to special ed. We're taking those students and saying, oh, we don't have time for you. So I'll do what I can, but I'm not there one-on-one to help you. I learned that from my daughter being at Pinkerton. I've talked to 15 parents whose kids failed the last half of this remote learning. These kids were A students. What happened? Pinkerton doesn't have the answers. They're trying to correct it themselves. If we honestly don't really care about our kids' education, then we could say what we want, okay, or how we feel. There is no right answer. School board's not 100% right. The teachers are not 100% right, okay? But if we don't learn to work together, what are we going to tell these kids 5 years from now? Oh, we didn't care. You know, teachers had their say. Somebody said they didn't answer the questions. I agree with Mary Ann said. I look at the social thing a lot. I see some of the comments on there. Some of those parents I happen to know personally. They could care less. It's just a place to say, oh, they're wrong. They don't care about us, okay? But if you said to them, we're going to go remote, or we're going to do this, the first things they'll complain about is, oh, I got a job. So it works both ways, okay? Some of the things I heard in these last 3 meetings, I know like the last one till 12 o'clock at night, I was ashamed to say that I was part of the district helping out. Because you know what? We can listen to everybody we want, okay? There's not one person sitting at these tables up here that doesn't have a say or feel for the way they act and how they care about the kids. And I know that honestly, okay? And I know the teachers feel the same way, okay? But if we don't start listening to the residents in Derry or the parents, then there's no answer. Your job is useless, teacher's job is useless, and I've taught. Somebody made a comment about walking 3 feet down to be to talk to a student. I've been in the school. You know what? That's a cop-out. Kids walk all over the place to get to the teacher. So, difference of 3 feet or 6 feet, it's not gonna make a difference, okay? If they're wearing the mask, okay, and the teacher's protected by wearing their mask, there's less chance of somebody getting it, okay? There's more of a chance of somebody bringing it from the outside into the school system than what the kids are doing. That's how I feel. I don't wanna applaud the school board and the teachers for trying to work together on it, but you know what? Let's forget all the political stuff. Let's start working together. If we can't do that, then you know what? I don't know what we're here for. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Anybody else?
Amy Rayu, 604 Colette's Grove Road. Is it okay to ask questions about earlier discussions at this time, or just regarding this topic?
You can ask questions.
Okay. Well, I think, I'll save the question. In response to the last gentleman, I have to continue to thank the passion for special education in this district. Right now, Derry Cooperative School District continues to advocate for my son who's transitioning to Pinkerton. Today, he started his first transition week with the New England Center for Children Partner Program. It was something I was concerned about all summer, that he wasn't going to have a transition, or the other children on the autism spectrum. And so they did participate in their freshman field day, and they'll be there tomorrow and Thursday as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And both my children went to Barker this summer, and they're here and well, and I filled out that Google Doc with pride every morning. No, 97.6, and signed my name for both my kids. So I just want to say thanks for that. I did email Laura Walker, so I guess this question is for, is it Ms. Linehan? The question that I have about the face shields, personally, and I'm sure there's going to be other kids as well, I have a question about face shields versus masks. My son specifically has eczema, heat rash. I swear he's allergic to his own sweat. So I want to know what the options are for kids who have issues like that, especially with the heat coming up still in the fall. Thank you.
Is that all you have?
Yep.
Okay, if you had other questions, I thought you asked them to have them all answered at once, so
That's it.
thank you very much.
So as far as the face shields go, and children who don't tolerate face masks, a face shield, it sounds like for your child would be an option to wear the face shield because it's better than no mask at all. And the staff that's working with him would have extra PPE, being goggles and a mask or things like that, whatever works for your child. There will be children that need accommodations, either medically, mentally, or, and they'll need a note from the doctor. If it's not already in a diagnosed condition that's within their IEP, sensory issues within their IEP or within a already written 504. If they're going to, say they can't wear a mask, there'll need to be medical documentation. Did that answer your question?
Thank you, Sue.
Paul Pizzone, 75 Shingle Road. I can appreciate the challenge that you have and the passion behind the topic. A little background on myself. I work for a healthcare organization in Boston, and my role in the past 4 months has been to keep the healthcare environment safe. I work side by side with infection preventionists from Harvard University, professors, PhDs, in developing plans to keep the patients and visitors safe. I'll share with you also that our theories and our approaches 2 months ago are different than what we're doing today. because we're continuing to learn. 6 feet apart or 4.5 feet apart is not necessarily enough. Those are minimums, 6 feet is the minimum standards. And as I was watching on TV earlier, the mask makes the assumptions that people wear it right. And I counted probably 45 to 50% of the time people weren't wearing their mask appropriately. So if you folks as adults can't wear your mask appropriately, how could you ensure this, I say patients, you tell my business, that the students will? We're also learning that droplets projected could last in the air longer than what we thought before, and that the size of the droplets related to this virus are much smaller than we thought, that keeps it airborne longer. So it's not just breathing it in. If folks are having lunch and they're 6 feet apart, but those droplets move, they could contaminate other people's food. And that has occurred. That's how some of the transmission has taken place. Also be aware that I had a situation just today in one of our office buildings where only at 25% occupancy, person working in a cubicle had a scratchy throat or something that caused them to cough. The few people that were in the room immediately called me up and said, we have to do something about that. We got to get the person out there coughing. How are you going to manage the reaction from the child that goes home to his parents and says, Mary Lou next to me was coughing all day long? You need to be prepared for how you will manage that. I have personal beliefs in that, although the intentions are good, and I can understand why, that we're not ready to open yet. The reality is this COVID pandemic is going to last 18 months to possibly 2 years. And if communities accepted the fact that that is the time frame that we have to manage, by accepting that fact, and you don't promote over-starting programs, the virus will end up being under better control 18 months from now instead of 24 months from now. But our desire, because we don't want to accept the fact that we're going to be in this state for a while, is our desire is to go back to normal, go back to normal. And that's, I think, the driver of forcing decisions that might not be the most appropriate. So please think long and hard about your approach. This virus is not going to go away, and the good intentions that you're trying to do just might cause more harm than any good that you intended. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Colleen Breyer, 24 Sunset Ave.
Thank you.
I want to start by saying I think you guys have done a great job. The task force, everybody. The initial plan was fantastic. I thought it was a good idea to let them have their mask breaks at their desk. Really disappointed in the change of that and saying that they have to wear them all day outside, phys ed, everything. That's upsetting. But what's more upsetting is the comment that Nick made. I'm down here now because I was watching at home, and I'm appalled. He said that parents don't care, like they don't care about their kids. They just want to pawn them off. It's, they can't handle them at home, so they're just pawning them off. That's so disrespectful to the parents and the educators, because nobody's using them as babysitters. This has been a very difficult decision for parents. I've been struggling with it for months. And I'm a preschool educator, and I've been waiting, wanting to go back to work, wanting to send my children for their education. And I just can't even believe that you said that. I found out today I am going back to work, and I'm very happy about that, but I'm also worried now about my kids wearing sweaty, dirty masks all day long outside and in gym class. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much for coming. Right, anybody else? All right. Any further board discussion? All right, thank you. I appreciate the teacher representatives for coming tonight. Thank you, and we'll keep working on plans. We're going to keep changing, as the gentleman said, every day, every couple of weeks, everything changes, so we're going to keep adapting to our environment, so thank you. Next, we have committees, manifest approval.
Derek, I make a motion to accept the manifest in the amount of $1,172,217.07 in general payroll and general expense, $179,730.94.
Motion by Lynn,
Second.
second by Nick. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Any FYI this evening? I don't think I have.
I don't have any, thank you.
Delegations and individuals. Okay, seeing none. Any other business? Going once, going twice. Okay. The board does have to go back into non-public pursuant to RSA 91A3, 2A, and C, and we will adjourn out of public directly from that meeting. So thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you at the next board meeting on August 25th. Thank you.
Good night.